Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Faye, and I sell Medicare plans. Today, I have a special guest with me. We are always saying that the phone is our friend. The phone has to be our friend in the business that we're in.
Mhm.
This podcast, as you know, is where people who sell Medicare and people who sell final expense come to hear what's going on in our industry. Well, in this $33 trillion industry of insurance, I have with me today Wally Bressler, who has a very unique story that he's going to share with you. And Wally is going to tell us how not to give up on those phone calls. Wally, welcome.
Hey, Faye, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I appreciate you inviting me to be your guest today.
I am so happy that I found you, and I'm not
Me
quite
too.
sure how that happened, but I am so glad that we have connected together.
Me too.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
thank you,
much.
thank
I
you.
appreciate that. Thank
So,
you.
listen, start to tell us, tell the audience about your story and
Sure,
how you came to where you are now.
absolutely. So I'm going to start not at the end, but I'm going to start far ahead, and I'm going to work my way backwards. So we're going to kind of do a little Benjamin Button exercise here, right? So we're going to start
Okay.
older and work our way to younger. So um, in 2013, I ended up going to federal prison for about 366 days. I was doing real estate investing back in 2005 and 2006, and my former business partner was submitting false loan applications, and he submitted about $15 million worth of false loan applications. And so,
Ooh.
you know, um, I was under the impression what we were doing was right, and part of that is because if you remember back then, as long as you could fog a mirror, you could get a loan. And I checked with him, and he told me, and here's the thing: there were things that I saw that I ignored, and things that I thought weren't right, but I just kind of moved forward. You know what I'm saying? So even though I wasn't trying to steal money, or anything like that, I was still involved with something where money was stolen. So I ended up spending a year in federal prison for one count of mail fraud, and I learned a lot. I'm a much better person now. Certainly, when God wants your attention, He'll get it, and that's one way He can get it, right? So,
You certainly
no,
will.
yeah, I'm a better father. I've been coaching real estate agents and other salespeople for the last 20 years. I'm a much better coach. I can give people better advice than I could give before, help them do better, overall with their business. So I always like to start with that because I want to let people know that I accept responsibility for what happened, and that the things that I've learned from going through that experience have helped me tremendously, and it's helped me help other people tremendously as well. And it's kind of driven me to where I am today. Now,
Mhm.
I'm going to go back. I'm from New Hampshire, and
A New
yeah,
Englander.
yeah, that's right. Yep, Patriots, Red Sox, Bruins, Celtics. Sorry, everybody else.
Mhm.
Yep. So I'm from New England. I grew up in New Hampshire, and part of how I got to where I am today, and this is part of how we're going to help people get over any sales call reluctance they have and concern about the phone, is that I had a fairly tough childhood. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I had two parents, and we had food and a house and stuff like that, but there were a lot of things that happened when I was a kid that unfortunately put me in a position where by the time I was 12, 13 years old, I had very low self-esteem. I did not like myself. Felt I was pretty worthless, and I've had addiction to, I'm going to explain this. I was sexually abused when I was 10. I started looking at pornography when I was 11. I started engaging in sexual activity when I was 12. And I've had anxiety since I was about 6 years old. And, over the period of my life, I was bullied mercilessly. So, at the age of 13, I didn't really have a good self concept, didn't believe in myself, didn't have a strong self worth. And so as a result of that, I didn't believe in myself. And so I put on a really, really big facade for people, thinking that I was this happy, outgoing guy, but I was literally dying on the inside. And
And I'm sure that that had something to do with, when you were an adult
mhm,
and ended up in the mail fraud
yep,
uh,
yep, and yep,
scenario
yep,
because of,
exactly.
how you really felt about yourself. Well, I am so happy that at this point
Mhm.
you've come through all of that and tell us, where you are now.
Super. And I just want to point something out. I'm not a victim. Okay. So I don't consider myself a victim. There were some things that happened, and I saw a great video by Will Smith this weekend, and he talks about fault versus responsibility. And he's like, look, there are things that are not our fault. There are things that happen to us that are not our fault. But when we find out what those things are, it's now our responsibility to fix them and make them better. Okay.
Mhm.
So it's really good video. It's like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So anyway, how I got here today is that, I after I got out of college, it was 1990. It was the second worst year since World War II to get a job. And I didn't have a lot of confidence. And so I took a very, very steady job. And, I was given opportunity to take sales jobs and I just couldn't do it. And so basically I suffered from call reluctance for about 10 years. And I was, after 10 years of working in the mutual fund industry and talking to financial planners and things like that, and studying and working and learning about personal development, I decided I wanted to go get a job in sales. In my first year in the real estate industry, my first 14 months in the real estate industry, I sold 72 houses. Okay. And
Wow.
yeah. And so I was like, oh, wow,
So, well, how did you overcome your call
yeah,
reluctance?
perfect. Great, great question. So here's the deal. You can imagine I've talked to lots of counselors and therapists and coaches over the last several years trying to, overcome the addictions that I had. So here's what I've learned. So the first part of the process is really about awareness, right? You can't fix a problem you're not aware of, correct? So
Right. You have
there's
to realize
right,
that you have a problem.
right, and
Mhm.
so people not wanting to get on the phone, people not wanting to call to get referrals, people not wanting to recruit people to their business, people not wanting to get in front of the video camera to record videos. It all comes from the same place, and it's not fear of those things. It's fear of embarrassment or rejection or failure or lack of self-worth, lack of self-belief, right? And so what happens is when we're younger, it's either we go through something traumatic or we start convincing ourselves of things and we create these hidden identities. And so for me, we didn't have a lot of money growing up, so I convinced myself that I was poor. We didn't have any brand name anything. There were tons of kids at school that had Levi's and Nike sneakers and nice ski jackets and stuff like that, and I had brand name nothing. I mean, I was even envious of their lunches. What I'm saying? They had all these
Oh,
nice snack cakes and all these great things, and I had like an apple a sandwich. You know what I'm saying? And so
you didn't have tasty cakes.
no, man, I love tasty cakes. I'm not a small guy, but no. So, and here's the thing. And so what happened is I convinced myself I was poor. And so here's what happens. Either we create this identity, right? Or we have a trauma, right? And one of things happens. We turn into a puddle and we spend the rest of our life telling ourselves that we're no good, avoiding fear, avoiding confrontation, avoiding things that will make us sad or hurt our feelings. And so, and as a part of doing that, we kill our self-esteem, or we lash out and we become like Frank Shamrock, who is a UFC fighter who basically said, "You're never going to hurt me again," and spent his life fighting and learning how to fight. Okay, but at the end of the day, we all have to come back to resolve that because it's going to be with us forever. So the first
Got to
step
come
is
back to the
awareness.
middle.
You've got to come back and say, "Hey, what's this all about?" So the first part is awareness. So if you don't remember what happened that caused you to be in a position where you're afraid of the phone, I'm going to give you a neat little trick. It works really simply. Okay. Your subconscious remembers everything you've ever tasted, ever seen, ever heard, ever touched, ever smelled, anything. Got to get a little white note card out and 5x7 note card and just ask a very simple question. What is the source of my call reluctance? Question mark. That's it. Okay. And I just want you to sit with it, keep it on your desk, read it, look at it. When you go to bed at night, make sure you sit with it a little bit and read it. And within 24 to 48 hours, something's going to pop up from your mind. And the first thing that comes up is usually the source of it. Okay. And then once you identify,
Ah,
yep, and it works great. And I'm like, I did the research. And in fact, I Googled, can you talk to your subconscious? And sure enough, there's like 1.4 million articles on it. Right. Right. Because our subconscious job is basically to keep us on the straight and narrow, keep us safe, keep us healthy. But it's also its job to make sense of everything that happens. And when it can't make sense of something, then it leaves it on the floor like a book and we keep tripping over it, like sales call reluctance and stuff like that, right? Makes sense?
right,
So
right,
it's going
right.
to remember. In fact,
Absolutely.
I just talked to somebody yesterday and I have a free course for your folks to take advantage of when we're done. I'd love to give them that so they can kind of work
Oh,
it out
I'm sure
themselves.
we'll be happy to
So that,
have it.
yeah, and so I got a free
That's
course.
so generous of you,
Yeah,
Wally.
my pleasure. And so it's interesting. I reached out, somebody reached out to me the other day. She goes, I didn't believe you. I thought you were full of crap. And I didn't think there was anything that that you were basically telling me the truth. And she said, but I did the exercise and within 24 hours, it popped to the front of my head. I'm like, okay, cool. So once you become aware, then you've got to basically kind of create a picture of it. And, Rick Carson wrote a book called Taming Your Gremlin. And basically what he does is his process is, let's define it. Let's give it a name. Let's talk about the experience. Let's talk about the feelings and the emotions that are associated with that. And let's identify what it is so we can get our hands around it, right? And then we just
Mhm.
have to learn how to sit with it and then eventually let it pass. And so if you have not meditated before, I'd recommend you go through the mindful movement on YouTube, the mindful movement, and you can learn how to essentially let thoughts that are painful or anything else go right through your brain and be at peace with them and look at them just as thoughts rather than barriers or limiting beliefs. So that's the first step, is getting aware, identifying it, knowing what it looks like, and then learning just to sit with the emotions without letting them, crush you. If that makes any sense?
It does.
Mhm.
So once you have this um, revelation
Yep.
of what it is that the source of your reluctance,
Mhm.
which actually most people just simply call it fear. Once you know what the source of that is
Mhm.
or what causes it, what you're saying is now you need to sit with that.
You've
You
got
need
to.
to resonate with that.
Mhm.
You got to face it, really,
Right.
right?
And then you've got to learn how to use the power of your mind, because our brains are so strong and powerful. You've got to use the power of your mind to learn how to let those feelings and everything else come up, and learn that they're just feelings and that they're not real. How to treat them as
Okay.
just memories and just things that happen, but not things that are real anymore. Okay. And then once you do that, you can go ahead and start reprogramming your brain. And so the way we do that is through what we call the miracle morning exercise. It's from a guy named Hal Elrod. He wrote a book called The
I've
Miracle
read
Morning.
that. Yes.
Yep. So how's a good buddy of mine, and we have to go ahead and start reprogramming our mind, because we've been telling ourselves for years, decades even, that we're not worthy, that we're afraid, that all those things that
Mhm.
have been reinforcing what is now called sales call reluctance or call reluctance. We've been telling ourselves all these negative things, and so our brain has literally been tending it like a garden and growing fear, growing self-doubt, growing lack of belief, right? And so what happens is we got to go ahead and chop all that down and grow new stuff. So by, and he calls it savers, right? So you've got to scribe, so you've got to write, all right.
Yes.
And then the A is affirmations, the V is visualization, the E is
Mhm.
exercise, right? The R is writing, and then the last S is silence. Okay, where you meditate. 10 minutes
Yes.
on each of those, it's an hour a day. So
I
you read the
have
book?
his book.
Yep, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yep. I have the book. Yes, it is
Mhm.
amazing.
And
So
mhm.
just starting out with that in the morning uh, makes a really big difference. A lot of people start their day with meditation or scripture readings
Mhm.
or just silence. And that was really important when I read the book for me,
Mhm.
because there are certain things that I do in the morning, but that silence piece made me aware that you really have to just sit still and be silent.
Mhm.
Let it all go. Don't, you're not talking, you're not listening to music or anything. You're silent, and what your brain absorbs and what comes through from your subconscious really can surprise you. But really, what came through for me, Wally, I don't know if you believe it or not, would be the breakthroughs for the things and the ideas for the things that I should be doing.
I agree 100%.
Uh, in my
100%.
business and in my personal life.
100%. Yep.
So, yes, I
Mhm.
would agree.
Yeah,
Now, if
absolutely.
someone is actually having, because I've been through this, and I don't know if you have, but I can procrastinate.
Same thing.
I can know that I should be on the phone, and I know that these are the calls that I should make, but I can find a million and one different things to do
Mhm.
to avoid that. Which part of this process helps with that?
All of it. It's the same thing. Procrastination is just another avoidance strategy. It all comes from the same place where we've created a belief about something, and in most cases, it's related to our reluctance and any fear associated potentially associated with that. And it's like it doesn't feel like fear for some people. Sometimes people just deny it. Some people say, I've got all these other things I have to do. It doesn't always come up as fear, but a lot of times it comes up as, spinning head, upset stomach, panic, sweaty palms, and so, but it always doesn't have to come up like that, but it's what's going on in the background. Sometimes we just get a mental block and we go numb when it happens, but procrastination
Mhm.
is in there, like this whole process is about overcoming call reluctance, procrastination, and self-sabotage because they're all tied together, And one
Okay.
of the most important parts of that miracle morning exercise is the affirmations. Right? Zig Ziglar says it takes 11 positive inputs to overcome one negative input. So think about it. If we've been saying all these things to ourselves in the background and reinforcing fear and doubt and whatnot, we've got to start saying different things to ourselves, and not just
Right.
that's
Right.
not just affirmations in the morning, but also affirmations at night. Okay. And so
Mhm.
once you start doing that on a regular basis, there's two more things you have to do. Number one, you have to figure out what drives you, right? What is it that drives me, right? And
Okay.
so, Daniel Pink talks about intrinsic and extrinsic motivations, right? A lot of times people are like, oh, I'm motivated by money. I'm motivated by gain. It's kind of a carrot and a stick thing. The problem is that
Mhm.
if we're using carrots, if we're using money, cars, boats, houses as our motivation, we're almost never going to get where we want to be, because if you make the money, then sometimes there's nothing after it. Then what do you do? Or if you don't make the money, then you're disappointed and it works against you. It kills your motivation. Does that make sense?
Right.
Right. So
Yes.
it's, external
Yes.
motivations are tough because they don't last and almost fail you. So the intrinsic motivations are mastery, autonomy, competency, right? If I master what it takes to be a successful, Medicare sales rep, right? I mean, pardon, not Medicare, right? Medicare, right? So
Right. Medicare.
selling Medicare plans, right? If I master what it takes to do that, then I become autonomous and I can be as successful as I want. I can scale my business. So if I'm driven by mastery and autonomy rather than carrot and a stick, rather than a carrot or a stick, then I'm doing everything I need to be doing to fulfill my desire to be successful, and it's in my control, and I feel good about it. The second thing is you got to figure out what your why is, right? So a lot of people are like, my why is my kids, my why is a car, my why is a house, my why is money in the bank, it's vacations. And so those are all what's. Okay, and
Mhm.
hear me out, because this is important, right? So, Daniel Pink has created like a target. He says it's what, how, and why, right? So the what. Okay, so let's talk about kids, right? Our kids are a what. We love them, but they're a what. How we're going to achieve our why is, what are we going to do on a day-over-day basis that we can influence the outcome of, that will let us do what we want for our kids. So, the why would be, I want to put enough money in the bank so my kids never have to worry about money and their grandkids never have to worry about money. Or I want to generate enough money so I can send my kids to college so that they'll always have an opportunity to get a job. Or I want to be able to send my kids to college and I want them to learn how to become great adults. You know what I'm saying? Those are all
Mhm.
whys, right? For a why, number one, you have to be able to influence it, right? Number two, your why is usually born for pain. You know what I'm saying? So my why is to make sure that my kids feel protected and loved, because I didn't really feel protected and loved as a child. My why is to make sure that my kids understand the value of money, because I've probably blown about $4 million in my life because I've made a lot of money, and in the need to fill that hole in my heart and in my stomach, I spent it all, wasted it all, trying to make friends, trying to make people happy, And so the formula for the why is pretty simple. It says it's real simple. If you want to write it out, somebody, you can go, I'm going to contribute X and a line so that I can impact Y. Okay. I'm going to
I'm
contribute X
going to contribute X
so I can
so
impact
that
Y.
I can impact Y.
Right. And so what that
Why?
means, yep. Right. So here's the thing. Your why, it's usually born from something that was painful for you. And then it's something you need to be able to impact the outcome of. Okay. And once you get your head around that and you put all this together, once you realize what it is that's causing your call reluctance or whatever it is, and you take it head on and then learn how to just let the feelings that happen start to pass through and not giving it any credence or power. And then you start retraining your brain to focus on the things that you want, to tell yourself the things that you need to hear. That switches pretty quickly. And then you're like, okay, what do I want to do here? I want to be, do you guys have the millionaire roundtable in the Medicare sales world, like they do in other
No,
parts of insurance? No.
that's
Okay.
in life
So
insurance.
yeah, so I did, I know life, I know insurance. I just don't know as much as you guys, but
Now, in the Medicare arena, most agents, particularly those that are just starting in the business,
mhm,
their entire thought and focus is six figures.
okay.
It's like
Same thing with
that's
real
the
estate agents.
magic number. They want to get the six figure because believe it or not, Wally, out of all these insurance agents that you see out here, the thousands and thousands and thousands, there are many who are millionaires.
Mhm,
There are more millionaires in the financial world than any other industry.
believe that.
But of all the agents that are out here, most of the agents' average annual income does not exceed $50,000.
Yep. Yep.
So, for an agent who has a desire to really take care of their why, once they know what it is and know what they want to do, they would want to stick that six-figure income in their brain,
Mhm,
and that's what they're working for. So
mhm,
once you get to that six figure, that could be 100,000 or 500,000, but you got six figures. So
right.
that's where they go. And then there are those few at the top who are at seven figures, but most agents, we don't think about $1 million round table. We
Mhm,
talk about six figure incomes.
okay. So the average real estate agent makes about 47.5. So it's not unlike that. So then my thought process is, those first two steps we talk about, and then what do I need to master? What do I need to do to become autonomous to get to that six-figure level, right? And it's basically I've got to, most importantly, I've got to learn how to make phone calls and set appointments and
Right.
talk to people, right? I also need to know how
Mhm.
to generate leads. I need to know how to make a presentation, right? And then, I need to know how to follow up with people on a consistent basis. And then obviously understand the product, right? So there's really five things to do. So if you can, I'm saying if you can master those five things, the sooner you can master those five things, the sooner you can become autonomous, the sooner you get to that 100,000 bucks. Because if you're always chasing that 100 grand, 100 grand, 100 grand, and it's not happening, you can lose your motivation. It can crush you. But if your goal is, listen, I'm going to be lights out good on the phone. I'm going to be great when I sit in front of somebody at the kitchen table. I'm going to know how to follow up on a consistent basis. I'm going to know exactly what to say, when to say, and how to say it. And I've got a great follow up program. And if I master that, then that $100,000 is virtually guaranteed,
Those
right?
are all of the steps that are required,
Mhm.
definitely,
Right?
to make it to where you really, really need to be,
Hmm.
and make it to where you want to be.
Right.
There are different niches within the insurance industry.
Hmm.
Medicare is one that obviously has grown over the past few years because the
Hmm.
number of Medicare beneficiaries continue to grow. And then the
Hmm.
product, the Medicare Advantage product, has grown and continues to grow as more and more people are choosing
Hmm.
that kind of vehicle to get their benefits than original Medicare.
Sure, sure.
So things change within the industry, and as that happens, more and more agents are wanting to be the best that they can be.
Hmm.
They understand their why. But I'm going to ask you as we wrap up the the sales secrets, the phone sales secrets that you would leave with this audience. We know that we have to be aware. We know that we have to find out what is causing the reluctance to be on the phone.
Hmm.
And once we get that in our vision and in our mind and in our subconscious,
Hmm.
we can then move forward to be lights out on the phone.
Hmm.
Would there be something that you want to leave with us as closing thoughts
Hmm.
of what we might do?
So a lot of people that suffer from sales call reluctance are not that great on the phone. What I've found is a lot of people are great face to face. They can do a presentation. They can get somebody to work with them, build rapport with them. Over the phone's an entirely different world. So once you've gotten to the point where you've been working on reprogramming your brain, you're solid with your why, you're solid with, becoming a master of what you're doing and becoming autonomous, you really need to work on understanding how to sell over the phone, right? You need to, like Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street. He's like, look, three things: enthusiastic as hell, sharp as a tack, sound like a force to be reckoned with. So the way to do that is to internalize, not memorize, but internalize all of your scripts and dialogues. Because once you know what to say, when to say it, and how to say it, and you're not like thinking about what you're going to say next, and rather than that, you're listening to somebody and having a conversation with them, and you're able to actually, know what you're going to diagnose without even thinking about it. Once you can get to that level, that's when your sales start to take off, right? But the only way to get there is to get on the phone and trip over things and say the wrong thing and make mistakes and role play. But once you get to the point when you get on the phone with somebody and you're asking them questions and they're telling you, then you can solve their problem because you have all this in your head. Your sales career changes forever. So once you can get comfortable with making phone calls, the next step is to learn what to say, when to say it, how to say it, learn how to handle the objections, and then understand the importance of being an active listener and letting people talk and listening to comprehend versus listening to respond. And once you can do that, your sales are hockey stick at that point because there's nothing then that can stop you. And then that's when you can scale and grow, because then I know every 10 people I talk to, I'm going to make 3 sales, right? And so my goal is to talk to
Right.
a number of people a month so I can do that. And that's
Right.
it. So it's working on those sales skills and internalizing. Memorizing, you have to go back in your head and think about it. Internalizing, I could come wake Faye up at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, Faye, when somebody says they're going to go ahead and choose somebody else to buy their Medicare program, what would you say to them? And Faye would be like, well, first of all, why'd you wake me up? But then she would say whatever the answer is because she wouldn't have to think about it. Does that make sense? So
That is
that's
absolutely
it.
on point.
Mhm.
That is absolutely on point. I again thank you so so much.
Right.
Um, how is it best for us to give the audience your offer, your free offer,
Yep.
your
It's real
course?
simple. So if you go to phonesalessecrets.com, so just like that says there,
Okay.
phonesalessecrets.com, you're gonna you're gonna join my Facebook group, okay? And in there is the link to the free training. It's right at the top, and you just click on it and sign up for it. There's no cost, there's no obligation. And in the group, I do lots of trainings every week. I do like a little 3 at 3 every day at 3 o'clock to give some strategies on how to sell and be more effective over the phone. We've got a mastermind coming up. My new podcast program starts next week, so I'm going to be interviewing experts like you, but people who are coaches and therapists and speakers and salespeople to pick their brains on what they did to become successful, so that I can give people some blueprints and lessons on how to get better at what they're doing. So it's good. I don't spam you. I don't post a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to hit you up in Messenger. Yeah, it's funny. Real quickly, the other day, some guy joined my group and he came in, and 2 minutes later he's like, hey, what do you do? How do you like what you do? I'm like, things are great. And then all of a sudden he's like, a lot of my other clients are really busy and they don't have time to work out. Do you feel the same way? And I'm like, dude, you just met me and you're baby stepping me to try and close me. I'm that's like, that's not, I mean, did you see what I do? Did you go look at what group you joined? He's like, I know, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. So I don't do that. I will never hit you up on Messenger
No,
other than having my sister reach out
I
and say, what can we do for you? That's it.
I sell Medicare plans as a private Facebook group too, and you're more than welcome to join the group. But
I will.
I have not tried to grow the group um, to large numbers because of that. Because I don't really have the time to police, people trying to recruit and spam others within the group. The group is there, and one of the questions that's asked when you join the group is, are you willing to help others? So are you willing to share what you know, even if you feel it's not that not very much? You
Mhm.
don't have to be the expert in everything. I don't know everything. I don't profess that I know everything. I
Mhm.
know a lot, but I do not know everything, and I'm always learning. So I can learn even from
Mhm.
people within the group.
Can I make one more offer?
Sure.
I would love to come and do a live training with the people in that group to help them with handling objections and understanding the flow of a good phone call, and just some of the non tactile things like tone of voice and pace and volume, and how to be resilient on the phone and asking good questions, and just stuff that you need to be able to be good at if you're going to be good on the phone. And I would love to come in and do a free training for you, like a live or something like that.
I would take that as an offer, Wally, and
Hmm?
I'm definitely going to take you up on it.
Okay.
We will now stay in touch because we're connected,
Thank you.
so that this definitely, and then I'm thinking there may be some other groups,
Hmm?
some other podcasts
Sure.
where your information will be really, really helpful.
Hmm.
So thank you so, so very much
You're
for
welcome, and
coming
thank you.
on, for
Thank you.
being my guest.
Thank you.
And I will also post in the information about the podcast, the offer, and the website to go to get it.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
thank you again. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Thank you, and I really appreciate you reaching out to me, Faye. Thank you.
Oh, you are welcome.